Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Cosmic Calendar, Using Astrology to Get in Sync with Your Best Life, by Christopher Renstrom, narrated by Eric Michael Summerer. Publisher's note: this audiobook refers to images and diagrams included in the print and ebook editions of the book. Introduction. In 46 BC, Julius Caesar changed the world. He had been invited to a dinner party on Queen Cleopatra's barge and found himself seated next to one of her court astronomers, Sosigenes. The two men became absorbed in conversation and were inseparable all night. The discussion was about calendars. The Roman calendar had been a mess for decades. It was based on the moon, so intercalary months needed to be added every 8 years in order to align it with the seasons. Although lunar calendars were commonplace throughout the Mediterranean, Roman priests had been adding and subtracting months willy-nilly to extend the terms of politicians in office they favored and shorten the terms of those they disliked. Indeed, their manipulation of time was wreaking havoc on shipping, commerce, and tax collecting. Sosigenes suggested switching over to the Egyptian calendar, which was based on the sun. Centuries earlier, the Egyptians had calculated that it took the sun 365 1/4 days to return to the place in the sky where it was at the spring equinox. He demonstrated to Caesar that by dividing the year into 12 months, 1 month of 30 days alternating with another of 31, he could create a consistent year of 366 days and then reduce February by 1 more day in order to sync the calendar to the sun. That way, instead of having to add or subtract an entire month every 8 years, all Caesar had to do was add 1 day to February once every 4 years. This was the origin of the Julian calendar, named after Julius Caesar, of course, and it standardized timekeeping throughout the Republic. Sundials and obelisks, both Egyptian inventions, soon became all the rage as Roman citizens were able to clock for themselves the time of day, month, and year. Moreover, this change of calendars gave birth to Western astrology, which had been based on the moon since the twilight days of Babylon and would, from Julius Caesar on, be based on the blazing sun. Your birth chart is a calendar. One that's unique to you because it's a picture of the heavens at the moment of your birth. You can think of it as a screenshot of the sky, your sky, and this individualized star map will guide you throughout your entire life. It tells you when you are in season or out, and when's a good time to start a venture or think better of it. It shows you grace periods where you can breeze right past obstacles, and it gives you a heads up on future rough patches where you can expect resistance. And like the calendar, this can all be done according to the sun, which is why it's so important to know where the sun is in your birth chart. Not everyone was born with the sun shining overhead. Many of us were born when the sun had already set. People born in the early morning hours aren't going to be like people born in the late afternoon, any more than people born in the middle of autumn are going to have the same outlook on life as those born in the spring. This book will also describe your individual elemental temperament, as depicted by the planets in your birth chart. This will be easy for you to understand because everything relates back to the sun. The sun represents you in your birth chart, and we will be using it as the You Are Here planet throughout this book. How to use this book. You will need a copy of your birth chart, and for that, you will need to know your birthday and year, birth time, and birthplace. You can download a copy of your birth chart from my website, rulingplanets.com. If you don't know your birth time, then use 12 p.m. Astrologers often use noon as a default time because it still gives a general idea of where the moon is. You may not be able to distinguish if you're a day or night birth, but at least you'll get a list of the planets for your birthday, and that will still allow you to use this book. 1. Identify your sun sign. You can do this by looking up your birthday. 2. Find your season. Are you spring, summer, autumn, or winter? 3. What's your mode? Are you an unstoppable force, An immovable object? Or are you the one trying to make an impossible situation work? 4. Are you a day or night birth? This is significant because if you're a nighttime birth, then the moon is going to be just as important as the sun in your chart, maybe even more so. 5. What's your elemental makeup? This is what really unpacks the birth chart. The 4 elements, water, earth, air, and fire, describe the cornerstones of your personality, your emotional life, material welfare, social skills, and spiritual beliefs. Based on the seasons, the 4 elements are rarely evenly distributed in a birth chart, and how they work with, and sometimes against, the sun speaks to your temperament. 6. Explore the sun in the signs. This section describes the sun as it passes through the 12 zodiac signs in calendrical order. You can use this to read about yourself, along with loved ones and friends, but you can also use it to identify your ruling planet. This is the planet that rules your sun sign, so you'll want to look it up, along with the sign that it's in, to read more about how your sun's energy will be directed in life. Finally, you can use this sun sign section to get a fuller grasp of the seasonal disposition of the other planets in your chart. 7. Get to know the planets. This section describes the planets in your chart along with the signs that they are in. Each planet will refer back to your sun, that is, you, which is why some planets will be helpful, some will be challenging, and some will leave you scratching your head. Furthermore, this section describes what it's like to have Mercury and Venus as morning stars versus evening stars, what it means when a planet is retrograde, and where certain planets are in domicile, detriment, exaltation, or fall. 8. Learn to use your astrology chart as a personal calendar. This part of the book shows you how to turn your chart into a calendar using the seasons and elements. Not only is it useful for timing decisions, romances, and sit-down talks with your kids, but it can also help you negotiate problem areas of your birth chart where the energy gets stuck or you experience a disconnect. There's no such thing as a bad chart because the sun is always moving through the 12 signs of the zodiac. It may take days, weeks, or months, but the sun will always come out tomorrow because at some point it will be in season or it will pass through a zodiac sign of a similar or the same element. This easy-to-use method will help you to plan for that and, more importantly, to do things in your own time. Understanding your cosmic calendar. Astrology is a calendar. Astrology is not a science. Astrology is not a religion. Astrology is a calendar. It's why nearly every major civilization on the planet, Middle Eastern, Indian, Chinese, and Mesoamerican, developed some form of astrology. It was in order to tell time. In astrology, everything is seen from the Earth's point of view. Yes, we all know that the planets actually orbit the sun, which sits at the center of our solar system. However, in astrology, the horoscope, better known as the astrological chart, is set up to show that the planets orbit us. It's not such a far-fetched concept when you consider how the sun rises in the east in the morning, travels across the sky during the day, and then sets in the west at night. Can't we all tell time by where the sun is? Isn't the quality of heat and light at 6 in the morning different from 2 in the afternoon, 5:30 in the evening, or 9 at night? That arc that the sun travels across the sky is the same arc that the planets follow. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and even the ones we can't see with the naked eye like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all follow the same path across the sky. They rise and set just like the sun and the moon do. And yes, the sun and the moon are considered planets in astrology. Planet comes from the Greek word planetoi, which means wandering lights. The Greeks used this word to describe the difference between the lights that moved in the sky, like the sun and the moon, versus the lights that didn't, like the zodiac constellations. And that's the first thing you need to know about reading your astrology chart. Planets move, and zodiac signs don't. Imagine the face of a clock, and all you can see on that clock are the 12 numbers. 12 numbers, nothing else. Now, if I were to ask you, what time is it, and all you could see was a clock with 12 numbers, would you be able to tell me the time? Of course not, because you would be missing the hands, right? You'd need an hour hand, a minute hand, and maybe even a second hand to tell me the time. The zodiac signs are like the numbers on the face of a clock. There are 12 signs, just like there are 12 numbers on a clock and 12 months in a year. They never ever change their order. The planets, however, are like the hands of a clock. They are in constant motion. The planets are what astrologers use to tell time. This is why, when you look at your own astrological chart, the signs are on the outside of the wheel, just like the numbers on a clock, and the planets are inside the wheel, just like the hands of a clock. The planets point to the signs. This is what astrologers mean when they say something like your sun is in Aries and your moon is in Capricorn. This would be like an hour hand pointing to 9 and the minute hand pointing to 12. Imagine what life must have been like before the calendar. You would have had no way of knowing that the flowers that bloomed in the spring wouldn't last forever, or that winter, once the temperatures dropped and the snows began, didn't mean the end of the world for all time. Life would have seemed capricious, dangerous, and pretty depressing. Like the other creatures on the planet, we would have been bound to our body clocks, eating when we're hungry, sleeping when we're tired, having sex, giving birth, and dying without much thought for the future. So what lifted our sights from the day-to-day grind of gathering some fruit here or running down an antelope there to envision a better life? The stars. Newgrange is a prehistoric monument located in County Meath on the eastern side of Ireland. It looks like an enormous emerald mound. Built around 3200 BC during the Neolithic period, Newgrange is older than Stonehenge, and it is older than the Great Pyramids of Egypt. The entrance of the monument is aligned with the rising sun on the winter solstice, so that every year around December 21st, the sun shines directly through a rectangular opening above the entrance, down a long dark passageway, and fills the central chamber with light for about 17 minutes. This is the only time of year when Newgrange's pitch-black interior is naturally lit. Today, the light enters about 4 minutes after sunrise, but calculations based on the precession of the Earth show that 5,000 years ago, the first light would have entered exactly at sunrise. So on the shortest day of the year, when the world was cold and bleak, here arrived a promise of light. Whether that promise was meant to assure the people who inhabited Newgrange millennia ago that there would be a new year to come, or whether it promised hope for a life hereafter, we cannot know. All we do know is that this monument could not have been built if these prehistoric people weren't already using the heavens to tell time. Astrology was never about superstition and fear. If anything, astrology was created to counteract our greatest fears. Understanding that the phases of the moon added up to a month, that the 4 seasons wherein the sun rose in the spring, peaked in the summer, set in the autumn, and grew distant in the winter, could be measured in 365 days, and that the planets themselves always returned without fail to the place in the sky where they were first spotted, gave humankind a sense of continuity and stability. The regular orbit of the heavenly bodies was reassurance that there truly was an order to things, and that life wasn't random and chaotic. This is why symbols of the zodiac can be found in churches, synagogues, temples, and government buildings throughout America, Europe, and Asia. They're not there for decoration or to ward off evil spirits. They're there to remind us that we all live in time. It doesn't matter how we clock it, zone it, lapse it, or extend it. Time transcends all sciences, religions, economies, and cultures. Everything rises, peaks, falls, and dies away. But the story of how it does that in time and what happens along the way is as diverse and singular as the lives that are born into this world. We all live in time, but time also lives within us, and that's what your horoscope is. It's your timestamp for when you came into the world, a screenshot of the sky on the day that you were born. Your horoscope serves two functions. It paints a psychological portrait of you based on the positions of the 10 planets, and it acts as your own personal calendar, telling you when you are in season or out. You see, astrology was never about a fixed fate, because time isn't fixed. Astrology describes the relationship between a moving heaven above interacting with a growing horoscope below. You know how we talk about syncing our mobile devices to the cloud? Well, your horoscope works in an analogous fashion. The more in sync you are with your time, the more you'll be able to make the most of your booms, recover from your busts, and live a fully realized life. Astrology never tells you what to do, but rather when to do it. The seasons. There are 12 signs of the zodiac, one for each month of the year. The best way to remember the order of the signs is to group them into seasons. Aries, Taurus, and Gemini are the spring signs. Cancer, Leo, and Virgo are the summer signs. Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius are the autumn signs, and Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces are the winter signs. The next thing you need to do is to quarter that seasonal cycle into equinoxes and solstices. Equinoxes and solstices set the 4 cornerstones of the year. The equinoxes. You'll notice that Aries and Libra are placed exactly opposite each other on the horizon line, like two people facing each other on a seesaw. That's because these are the signs of the equinox. Equinox means equal day and equal night, and that's what we all experience every year when the sun enters Aries on or around March 21st, or when the sun enters Libra on or around September 22nd. This is when, from the Earth's point of view, the sun crosses over the equator, moving from one hemisphere to the other. In the spring, the sun moves into the northern hemisphere, and that's when the trees bloom and the first green shoots push up through the earth. In the autumn, the sun moves past the equator again and into the southern hemisphere. Autumn is when the foliage changes color and the leaves begin to flutter down from the trees. Starting on the first day after the spring equinox, the days get longer and the nights grow shorter until the sun reaches the summer solstice. Similarly, on the first day that follows the autumnal equinox, the days get shorter and the nights grow longer, like a shadow, and this will continue until the sun arrives at the winter solstice. The solstices. Solstice literally means sun at a standstill. Now, the sun doesn't really come to a standstill. If it did, we'd all be in a lot of trouble. But that's the way it looked to the people who were clocking it for centuries. And solstices mark the 2 times of year when the sun is farthest from the celestial equator. It was at these points that the sun appeared to stop in the sky. It couldn't get any higher, summer, and it couldn't get any lower, winter. The summer solstice, which occurs in Cancer, marks the longest day and the shortest night of the year. It takes place on or around June 21st. Summer is when the sun feels closest and warmest to us. And the winter solstice, which occurs in Capricorn, marks the shortest day and the longest night of the year. It takes place somewhere around December 21st. Winter is when the sun feels the most cold and distant. This is illustrated with Cancer and Capricorn being given the 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock positions on the chart. Spring people, Aries, Gemini, and Taurus, are regarded as the young signs. They're the up-and-comers. Eager to make their mark on the world, they see life as chock full of opportunities, and they want to capitalize on each and every one of them. They are guileless and a tad naive, and there's no denying that their enthusiasm is infectious. They're the eternal kids who will never grow up. Quick starters and big talkers, they have difficulty with bringing things in for a landing. You can think of the summer people, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, as the sunbathers. Born in the season of abundance when roadside stands are spilling over with ripe fruit and vegetables, They have no reason to believe that life will ever let them down. They are the most self-assured and confident of the signs. Their way is the right way. Whether their aims are ambitious or modest, they know that they have a guaranteed place at the table. It's why they don't do well with setbacks. Autumn personalities, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, are the comeback kids. Born during the time of year when the sun is setting, these signs have all experienced firsthand what it's like to take a fall after being on top. They also know that if you cave in to self-doubt and fear, you'll never pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get back on your feet. This indomitable will to rise again makes them the seasoned players of the zodiac. Winter people, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, are slow to warm up. No strangers to hardship, they expect to shoulder heavy responsibilities in life and pride themselves on their resourcefulness, perseverance, and playing the long game. Whereas spring signs see life as starting out, the winter signs see life as winding down. So the challenge is to get them to try new things and to see the world through fresh eyes. They are the old souls of the zodiac. Now, these descriptions have nothing to do with personal evolution or how many past lives you've clocked down here on planet Earth. They're solely based on the sun. Were you born at the time of year when the sun was just starting out, peaking, setting, or set? Modes. Each season, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, is made up of 3 signs, and they follow in strict order of appearance: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. These are called quadruplicities, or if you want to be hip, modes. Cardinal signs are zodiac signs that rule an equinox or a solstice. These are the signs that start the season, so they possess the most initiative. When you're in cardinal mode, you give direction but don't take it. Cardinal signs are the unstoppable forces of the zodiac, and they won't take no for an answer. However, they don't approach life in the same way. Aries attacks a situation head-on. Cancer makes a wide circle around its objective before closing in. Libra invites people to combine forces, thereby augmenting its strength. And Capricorn, the climber, goes over the head of anyone who tries to get in their way. Cardinal signs go the distance and will always achieve their ends. It's why they are the most goal-oriented of the zodiac signs. A fixed sign always follows a cardinal sign, and because it sits in the center, it is considered to be the heart of the season. In other words, spring has sprung when the sun is in Taurus. Summer is hottest in Leo. Gardens fade and go to seed in Scorpio, and the world is coldest in Aquarius. Fixed signs always say no before they say yes. No before yes means it's up to you to sell them on your idea. It's a show-me mentality. Fixed signs never relinquish their veto power, which makes them the immovable objects to Cardinal's unstoppable force. Their strength is in resistance. And like the cardinal signs, they resist in different ways. Taurus plants it. Leo gets heated. Scorpio stares you down with a withering gaze, and Aquarius just freezes you out. Mutable signs end the season. And it's because they're transitional signs, always looking back at what's come before while anticipating what will come next, that they are depicted as double-bodied. Either there are 2 figures, like Gemini the twins and Pisces the fish, or they are a composite figure, a mix of 2 beings, like Virgo, which is represented in antique star maps as a woman with wings, or Sagittarius, which is half man and half horse. Dualistic by nature, these signs introduce flexibility into a zodiac squeezed between unstoppable forces and immovable objects. It is in their nature to be accommodating. Their aim is to facilitate matters, to find a way to make the situation work. Gemini is the go-between, Virgo is the helper, Sagittarius accents the positive, and Pisces elicits sympathy. Elements. After grouping into seasons and dividing into modes, you want to join the signs by elements. The difference between modes and elements in astrology is like the difference between consonants and vowels in the alphabet. Consonants provide the building blocks, but it's the vowels that make the sounds. Vowels animate words. Similarly, in astrology, it's the elements that make the zodiac signs come to life. And like vowels, they have their own distinct behaviors. The four elements, water, earth, air, and fire, are the cornerstones of astrology. Water is the lowest on the scale. Then comes earth, then air, and fire is the highest. This has nothing to do with one element being more evolved than another. What the ancients were trying to do by setting up this ascending order was to describe the nature of the elements themselves. It is the nature of water to go down. Rain falls from the sky, water flows downhill, not up, and a leak will always seek the lowest point before it seeps out. This is why water is at the bottom. Earth sits on water, as you see when approaching land from a boat. It's the solid ground we stand on. Air is all around us. It fills our lungs, carries the clouds, and creates the atmosphere we live in, while fire flies up and out. The biggest source of heat and light is the sun, which rises and sets above our world. Water seeks depth. Earth seeks to amass. Air seeks to circulate, and fire seeks height. That's why fire crowns the elemental scale. Water. Water represents our emotional life. It gives us depth and it gives us feeling. When you think about how 2/3 of our planet is covered by water and how 60% of our bodies are made up of water, you realize just how essential this element is. Life can't exist without water. Our emotional life can't exist without our feelings, memories, imagination, and dreams. Water rules our unconscious, the mysterious part of ourselves that lies submerged beneath our conscious, waking minds. This is where we emerge every morning feeling replenished and renewed, and this is where we return every night, in need of the restorative waters that only sleep can bring. Our consciousness is really just an island, if you think about it, a small piece of real estate supported by a deep, vast psyche. The water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. These are the emotional signs of the zodiac. Think of the word emotional for a moment. When someone is described as being emotional, doesn't it usually mean that this person is being hysterical, crazy, or out of control? Yet the water signs are famously non-expressive. For water signs, feelings are meant to be felt. It's why they don't talk about them or even try to explain their reactions. If you ask a water sign what they feel, you usually get a monosyllabic response. Water signs won't wax poetic like a fire sign will, or analyze behavioral patterns like an air sign. Water signs have a profound mistrust of the spoken word. Now, this doesn't apply to words in general. Some of our greatest writers, poets, and lyricists were born under water signs. These are people who understand that words are incantations that can cast a spell on a reader or a listener, opening up their hearts to the magic of their inner lives. A water sign's mistrust of the spoken word comes from the fear of their words being used against them. They've experienced too many times being misquoted or having their words twisted around to mean something they never felt. Quote what a water sign said back to them in an argument, or worse yet, try to pin them down to semantics, and you will see them grow fuzzy-headed. They'll get angry and confused like a witness grilled on the stand. They will respond with, "That's not what I meant." They will flip-flop in all directions like a fish out of water. Theirs isn't the world of cool, systematic logic. They're suspicious of facts, mistrustful of stats, and they can smell a hastily manufactured rationale from miles away. Water signs know full well that words in the wrong hands can become weapons. Water signs believe that we all draw from the same wellspring of emotion. The way that someone falls in love in New York City is no different from the way someone falls in love in Tokyo or Somalia or Iceland. Everyone knows what it feels like to be swept away, to experience hope or exhilaration, just like everyone knows what it's like to be hurt, to feel rejected, angry, or despondent. So if we all...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?